And 3 years ago, I just started this startup, Quantum Blockchains, in some sense to realize my dreams about coming back at the end of my career to science. And that's how it all started. I will tell you a little bit more about scientific progress and that thing. So the company, in a nutshell, is created in 2020, so 3 years, properly speaking. It went through a typical kind of the incubation as a startup, despite the fact that I was seasoned businessman. I started this process as a usual startup, and I really recommend to young people to do that because it's always fantastic. One thing that potentially is good is that you can get money to the development, okay? And that was important. I specifically tried to keep this out of my collab, out of my private situations, and go through the startup like story. After successful incubation and a very high appreciation of the judges, we got a grant from PARP, Polish PARP. This PARP at that time was not that very much, in bribes and not very much corrupted. That's a later story. And then we got, after 1 year, investment of the LT Capital Fund from Warsaw. Small investments, as you see, not big money for startup, but what was good and what is still in some sense good is that valuation, which is in startup language called pre-money value. I mean, pre-money value, if you don't know, is something that how auditors and investors perceive your value before they put any coin into you. Okay, so that was 8.5 million euro with 0 sales. Okay, so we are very highly valued. The reason was that we promised a critical solution for blockchains, and blockchains in the beginning were on hype, right? So you know what blockchains was. Some of the people who joined the company even said that it could be next, this $1 billion, which is called unicorn, or a company. Of course, I smile at that now, but that was what we were hearing. We have fantastic partners. So the first real partnership in the quantum cryptography, which I will be devoting most of my time today, is QNU Labs. It's the Indian company from Bangalore, so that's quite interesting. Then we got into cooperation with Polish Supercomputing and Networking Center, which is important in Poland for building quantum networks, but unfortunately doesn't behave very well. And that I know from my other hat that I wear. I am also chairman of the University Council of the City of Łódź. In fact, post I see PSNC not very, was not very positive actor, but anyway, what we could do about that. Fantastic company from Chile, Secure Quantum, actually. This is company created in Chile and in Gdańsk. And Sideral, it's now under another name. So that's a group of companies which we started to cooperate. What is maybe the most important, not listing all of them, is that in Poland, thanks to extremely wise people, there was a cluster Q, or cluster of quantum technologies established. So it's like today, I think 15 universities, including our university, and about 10, 12 companies. And they are, it's a completely non-commercial, non-business organization, how to say, it's consortium, free open consortium for promoting of quantum technologies. Very important and very influential group of people. And when it was created on the opening on Warsaw University, there was this famous guy, Professor Arthur Eckert, which is the founder of the part of the quantum cryptography. Polish, that's true. He was candidate to Nobel Prize. He didn't win that at that time because there was a Nobel Prize was awarded to other people who created this domain before, domain of the entanglement and quantum information. Okay? And then Arthur created quantum cryptography with other people, Sartre and others. So I hope that the time will come that he will get that. Okay? But that's a very nice guy, despite that. So that's our founders. I don't want to go into individual people. 5 founders. Maybe the only important thing to say is that this guy in the middle, Shin Sun, was with me creating initial papers, which I will tell you. And before we started this startup, because of my scientific legacy, I didn't want to really to do business only. There was some preparation work in science, which I will be telling you what that was. Okay. Now, what really we do, what kind of problems we solve, and how we got from blockchains to quantum cryptography. So first and foremost, the big problem right now that is this really, honestly, I must say, negative effect of quantum computers. Quantum computers have generally absolutely fantastic effects, okay? But they have also extremely dangerous effect on our cryptographic system. And in this world, which is fully digital, let me be very blunt. The real situation in quantum computers is more dangerous than nuclear war was in 1950, or maybe the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb used by Americans. As a result of scientific, I am absolutely serious about it, because the disruption that someone can do to the digital world now, as you know, can create really deaths. I mean, it's not a joke. Everything in our society, like our phones, they are dependent on the ability to communicate doctors to everything. And a total disruption that can be made to this system can make such an effect on society that the total effect may be stronger and worse than this war. I know that this sounds strange because there was a physical higher energy action and many people died, unfortunately. But what we have right now in quantum computers is exactly the same situation. And why it is so? It's because cryptographic foundations of cybersecurity are at stake. And I will shortly say this, not a time today to speak about these algorithms, but quantum computers are capable of running algorithms that are specifically designed for some problems, and two of them are critical for cryptography. So one is the factorization, okay, or generally one-way functions. I mean, functions that are easy to compute into one way and very hard to be another way, right? Factorization is one example, elliptical curves is another, digital integer algorithms is another, and so on. So all of them are now can be broken and are being broken. I will show you some progress on that when I will get some applications. So this is absolutely real. And the second part is the ability for accelerated search. This another algorithm is called Groover algorithm. And this accelerated search for cryptography may break or maybe break. How to say break? Can weaken standard cryptography. So this cryptography that is called symmetric can also weaken hash functions. So all these things that we hash a document, okay, and have like a digital stamp, right? So this is very far from being broken on the horizon, but it's possible to weaken that. What weaken means? It means that there is a possibility to create a modification of this document, which is different, but it's the same hash, because we can search the space hashes of all these hashes. So that's something that is real. Now, existing blockchains, as you see space, they completely ignore the danger, and that's crazy. Like, whereas I could count maybe on two hands serious maybe 5, okay, no more attempts to protect blockchains from that risk. And all these major Bitcoins, Ethereum, and these guys who are making billions of dollars, are completely, and they don't do anything. Vitalik Buterin on the conference said, oh, it would be nice if somebody did that, but they don't do that. And a part of the problem is not easy, because that's from nature we discovered. I will tell you, you will see the way it's not easy. But the other reason is that there is a pure ignorance in the space of this danger. People do not realize that something is coming, and that's really very bad. And the next problem which we try to solve is the pace of development of quantum resistant cryptography. So We discovered that to put blockchains on the safe space, we need progress on quantum cryptography. And quantum cryptography in itself is also problematic. And it grows slowly. Okay, we'll tell you why in a moment. So that's what are problems that we do. No. I mean, quantum cryptography is growing slowly because it's extremely so a pair of QKD devices that can communication keys of communication, not key, not key, 100,000. And as you know, it's quantum, so you can have network. So that's one reason. Second reason, we only can create which are not perfect. So we are sitting here and that's a kind of for sure. Here, because some of you have really bad phones with fiber optic cables like the internet. But these cables are routed, so you have a cable that goes from your apartment perhaps to some place, like 1 mile or something like that, and then it goes into the digital router. That's not good for QKD. For QKD, we need or something called dark fiber, which is simply a fiber, or a part of band of fiber, but still, if it is part of band, cannot go to any integration on the way. So there cannot be any optical switches. Must be a part connection. So such fiber in New York City costs about $5 per meter or something like that per year. Imagine. So if you have to communicate over miles, it's another horrible cost. And there's attempts to do that over satellites, but it's such an early stage that nobody can practically do it until you are Chinese and have a military money. They do now, as we speak. Right? So that's the story. So this progress is slow because of that. I will try to show what we try to do to accelerate it. Now, how it is happening, what is really this danger in a nutshell? I don't want to go into algorithms. My lecture today is not about short algorithms. We can discuss do that. By the way, I am not the best one. I of course know how to work. How short works, good to explain. By the way, to the high level, it's easy to explain. Lower level, where it comes to coding, is extremely difficult. I did PhD thesis and master thesis from some universities, where the only object of this is how to implement for in a different way. So it's a very big work required to this implementation. But what is important is that there are signals that this level of the danger can come closer to us. Like, for example, Chinese in the January this year, they published an article saying that they can break RSA with only 370. By the way, it was not verified. So it stands out not as a hype, but as unverified work, unverified claim. However, the paper was peer-reviewed, so scientifically is sound. The only story is that we have computers. A little bit of something. Now, because of that, the people who are responsible for security of the US system, like in America, US Congress, in is a huge legal movement. Like I mostly say to some people who are from America, so I quote American quantum computing cybersecurity preparedness. It is a public law from the last December. There is also something that I don't have in this slide because it's not, again, for everything, which literally says what when the standards for new algorithmic, not quantum, algorithmic, post-quantum, will be finally available. So now it's the state of the discussions and events, but it will be finally established in June 2024. Now, I am sure that you know today what's and I feel really crazy about it. When I started my career, this many companies and they are really now in the cybersecurity background. So, what really is the story? This works? Just a second. I think that I need to. Okay, I will use mouse. Maybe. Okay. So these articles here, if somebody of you go into this, I will advance that to show that and come back later. It's a paradox. It's an article that was written by R&D people from Facebook or Meta, which have very strong R&D, by the way, doing Facebook, and they found that AI can be used to find post-quantum. Michał Gajda, to find vulnerabilities in this post-quantum algorithms. So this situation is really crazy, and all these free links in the down of the page, I don't want to go into them right now. They show that these post-quantum algorithms are immune to AI, even if they are not directly side channel attacks, which are extremely important. But let me come back a little bit on this. Yes, I mean, this presentation. You can then follow that. Yes. What I would like to say, the consequence of this previous slide, is that even if we do not believe in this Chinese study with 372, we have extremely sound, extremely big work of Oded Regev. It's a famous cryptographer who was actually one of the largest post-quantum algorithms. He co-created a lot of lattice-based algorithms, special new kind of more secure algorithms. And recently, just a few months ago, I think, he published a fundamental paper. It's in an archive here. I don't know what this final paper will be, but that's how it goes these days. And he shows how to get Shor factorization algorithm even faster than it was before. So even if it was all of m squared, I mean, I don't want to go into notation for complexity, right? So he made it even faster. So it was O of n squared, now it's O on n to 1.5. So that's the speed up, which is important And he shows not only the speed up in terms of the speed up, but also that the lower number. I don't quote here some completely hypey other news. Like a few weeks ago, there was a hype that some famous cryptographer invented how to use specific Shor algorithm on a standard computer, not on the quantum computer. Some version of that, and that apparently can break Shor algorithms. That happened to be a hype, as far as we know right now. But the remarkable thing is that these guys famous cryptographers. It's like you really don't know ultimately. Is it hype or maybe there is some essence behind it? One story which is absolutely certain. It's a history of cryptography from early days from Julius Caesar, right? Caesar. All algorithmic cryptography is at some day broken. I mean, whatever you do, right? There is no proof that any cryptography is safe, but quantum. So quantum cryptography is only cryptography which has this notion of theoretical security. We can prove that it is absolute. Proof, physics, and mathematics. Well, yes, there are. In particular, they come from mixing core security and self-harm. I agree. I was with this workshop on Warsaw University recently, but Ms. Magda Magdalena, and she showed me like a pyramid showing that actually the methods that are being built today, the devices, not. It is controversial because there are some security for that kind of devices and that. Nonetheless, you may find it. So I just wanted to say that people shouldn't really stay put; they should act. Oh, that's this Oleg efficient one, where he shows that he can make it even faster than it is today. Okay. Now, without AI, without computers, the most refined in 2 weeks, one of these second and not on any computer, it's still Belgium, in the Leuven University, also at the Polish University, Catholic University. The first school was and they broke in 2 weeks. So I don't want to say anything more. That speaks for itself. Okay. Okay. So that's the situation now. Why we should take it seriously? So many people say, "Oh, these protocols are not existing yet, and we don't know when they will be available. Maybe 2030, maybe 2050. Who knows?" Okay. The problem is if you go really to the fundamental infrastructure of the security. Okay. So I must be closer. Thank you, Michał. Yes, I'm sorry. I must be just closer. We had this mic before, so where is this mic? You remember we had this beautiful mic last week. But anyway, okay, I can stay closer. It's not a problem. Is it okay now, Michał? Do you hear me? Okay, hopefully. Okay, anyway.
Dziękuję bardzo, jest dużo lepiej.
Okay. Why we should take it much more serious than anything else? Okay. Thank you, Michał. If you really go to the cybersecurity organizations, for example, in a bank, they have the following situation, which is called self-lifetime. What that means is the time for which your secrets must be secure. Okay, it's not important only that something is not broken today. It's also important that today's secret is not broken tomorrow. Okay, and there is this shelf time, which means how long in years the security must be preserved, and that I don't need to explain that. Like our account, right, cannot be displayed. And second is the migration time, which is absolutely horrible. I spoke to cybersecurity chief of Citibank, and he told me that this simple modification of hash function, MD5, which is still used by many programmers, right, for the hash of the object code, was in use in digital signatures and everywhere until some year. I don't remember exactly that year. And it was discovered as vulnerabilities, so it must be replaced to SHA-3, SHA-3, this current hash algorithm, which is secure. Okay, it took them 2 years. 2 years to imagine. Can you imagine that? Such a simple thing. It's nothing. It doesn't change anything. Now, to show you in the simple picture how horrible is the migration to post-quantum cryptography is. The current size of the private key of the elliptical curve algorithm is 32 bits. Completely enough, okay? It's 32 bits. We are still secure. The private key of the shortest dilithium-2 algorithm, which is this post-quantum algorithm, has 2,050 some 500 something, okay, bytes. Can you imagine that? So if you have a computing system that uses keys of the length 32 bits, okay, and suddenly you need to replace them by keys that have kilobytes, okay, that is a problem, not only for performance, not only for memory, but many algorithms are not ready. Okay, so why this migration time in case of the post-quantum cryptography is really measured in tens of years, okay? Like this NSM that I quote in America says that ultimately full migration might happen until 2035. Can you imagine that? So now if you add these two times, y and x, okay, this is where you need to think if after y plus x you have quantum computers or not. And all predictions say yes, we do have in almost 90% of cases. So this is famous Mosca. Silvia Mosca is the scientist in quantum computing of the Waterloo University in Canada, which I also had pleasure to work at for a short time in my years. So that's extremely serious situation and is universally ignored. So I can tell you. Yeah, we should just act now. Now, blockchains. Okay, we started as blockchain, so I collected a number of the interesting articles about that. Most of them, if you just take these titles, Google for that, you will find that almost all are free. The exception to this report on the right side, commercially, it costs about $500. But if someone of you is interested deeply in that and has resources, I strongly recommend to buy that because this is very serious. It's not, again, not a hypey thing. It's written by one of the American Navy cryptographer, a very serious person. And it really shows how deep this threat is. So where this threat is, first vector of attack, very simple, is that whenever you have public keys exposed, and even if we use for addresses hashes of public keys and multiple methods, there are moments in the lifetime of any blockchain that public keys are exposed. So from public key, quantum computer can get private. Right? This reversal is absolutely possible. So that's very obvious, simple thing. But more important in many ways is that because you can weaken the security of the hash algorithm, so you can potentially change the history of the blockchain. I mean, going back to the past, right? And that can create a havoc in these situations. On the left side, all these beautiful articles, what is the real risk about for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the risk is real. So that's something that is really serious. Now, it's absolutely certain that because of that, Industry needs absolutely unbreakable cryptography. And this post-quantum cryptography, however you like it, it's still only a partial solution just because of this. So we need quantum cryptography, which is based on physical security, but it's difficult, as I said before, and I will go into it again. This, by the way, is the announcement of this scheme being cracked on laptop. If you Google that, I think you will find it on Quanta magazine, a very good place for these things about that. If someone is not a mathematician, not physicist, and wanted to understand that, I strongly recommend a very popular book, the Code Book. Oh, by the way, it's such a pleasant book that anybody can read. This author is Simon. He's a great author. When I was a long time ago, more than 15 years ago, I was teaching cryptography in one of the universities here in Poland, in Łódź even. I used this previous book of thing to show the history of cryptography. It's really fantastic. But in this very book, the last chapter is the quest for cipher is over. We finally have the cipher broken. So really, he believes in that, and it's something like that exists. It's not easy, as I said, but it exists. Now, if you also look into other problems than security, we know that problems of classical systems, classical distributed system, are huge. And one example, which costs the world huge amount of money and resources, and also has impact on climate, is the cost of Bitcoin proof of work. I am not joking. It's like, if I remember different estimates, the most crazy estimate says that it's up to 5% of the total production of energy. That's probably exaggeration. But 2% is, there is an institution, if you Google what is a Bitcoin impact of climate, you will find some British organization that measures that, and they show that. Because proof of work requires this huge amount of energy for computing of this proof of work, right? For finding these hashes and stuff. So that's like a physical proof that the problem is serious. What the problem is? Guys, the problem is extremely crazy. It's like it was, by the way, invented long before blockchain. I discovered this problem, okay? Long before any of these things. It's called FLP, so it's names of inventors. I forgot these names. But there is another, like a formulation of this problem, which is called CAP. And that reads consistency. What that means? It means that if you have distributed system, you cannot at one time, at the same time, fulfill consistency. I mean that the data is consistent across the system, availability, that you can access any node, and partition tolerance, so that it's tolerant for breaks in networks, which happen. And this theorem is a mathematical theorem that shows that in the classical setting, these things cannot be satisfied. So we may go and try to invent consensus algorithms like crazy. We can, work hard and so on and so forth, but we will not break it because there is a mathematical proof that cannot be invalidated. That's the problem. Now, there is a lot of work, including the work that we did in this startup. I'm proud of that saying, maybe not yet fully baked yet, and the publications track is not fully, qualified yet, but it's very advanced work, that if we apply quantum information technology, we can break this spell. And the very simple intuition behind that, I will tell you later when I show the paper that we wrote that started that work. But anyway, I wanted just to stress that security is not the only problem we have in this data. In this data world, we have also problem of making sure that the data, which must be consistent, is consistent. That if you replicate the database, if you work on blockchain, that every node has the same. And today we achieve that by this proof of work. Right? And only. So that's why this problem is also here. So now a little bit of a history of how we got there. We started publishing papers before the startup started in 2019. And that was already in this team of people who are founders later, quantum secure permission blockchain. So that was Rome, quantum information management. It was on the conference. It followed by one of the articles that we are most proud of. There is a funny story about that. I will tell you in a moment. It was in International Journal of Theoretical Physics, a simple voting protocol. So that reflects also the mindset of my partner, Shin Sun, who is not only a co-inventor or inventor of many of these things, actually the foundation he invented himself, but he also works on something which we call the mental experiments. Okay? Like voting is such of the thought experiment, like Einstein was doing. So how we create vote on quantum blockchain, for example. So we were writing this. It was purely theoretical work. But what is a funny story about that? It was published in 2019. And as you remember, in 2020, at the end of 2019, there was the presidential campaign, which brought Trump out of the okay? And this article from Journal of Theoretical Physics got such a huge, how they call it, internet hit rate, right? So people were looking for everything voting. And because of that word in the title, it was such a movement that this journal wrote to us, dear authors, we are so happy that you gave this title, because never in our history we got such visibility, you know. But it was not about the article, it was about the voting. So I was proud because, you know, thinking, I don't want to, you know, offend anybody, but thinking about Trump is a very specific, you know, thing. As you know, I was quite proud that I actually, perhaps, you know, made an impact on that. So that's the funny story about it. Okay. Some other articles, actually, this article is the most serious one where we literally put forward the basics of quantum secure blockchain, okay, using quantum. And then there was also lottery and auction, another thought experiments on this. So that was the initial work. Then there was this work that somehow summarized everything we did and also added some logic into that. We were working at the time on the logical smart contracts. I don't want to go into this because it's a side topic. So that was this thing. And then this work is the kind of the like a loved work by Shinsun. And really there is some great thing. What is RO impossibility? It's another limit that is not known. RO was the Nobel Prize winner in economy. And he proved mathematically that in the classical system, we never can have honest elections. Actually, he proved that with a specific kind of manipulation, which are all honest. I mean, so it's not manipulation like you put some ballots, you know, down or something. But if you really have some number of people for whom you vote and some number of voters, but it's always possibility to get a dictator in an honest way. Okay, so actually to get rise someone who shouldn't be according to mathematics. I'm not saying anything about political views. Okay. Perhaps. We didn't look at that from a philosophical perspective, by the way. We looked at from the perspective of the arrows impossibility theorem that has a proof, really, it's mathematical proof that is, by the way, American system of voting with its electors was partially motivated by these things. So they noticed that. I don't know what is the arrow impossibility applied to situations like in Poland, Europe, or I didn't check that. But that's something that is certainly thing. And we also showed in this article that if you put quantum information theory and all these things that characterize quantum networks, entanglement, superposition, and all these things, very math, behind that in this article, you can break Arrow's impossibility. So you can potentially create honest voting. Okay? So that's potentially a big thing. Yeah, it's funny, you know, but that's a big topic. Yes, that's right. I mean, Shin actually is now a professor of quantum information sciences in the University of China, and has a group of people. And it recently told me that there are some investors who wanted to create these small quantum computers, like 2 qubits, but they're enough to, you know, help in voting. No, voting in China. I told him, okay, be careful, okay. But anyway, his claims that on the local level it's okay. And that was this logic programming thing, so smart contracts basically that are protected by post-quantum. And this work is the last that was done already in the startup. So Marta and Miriam, the women that work for quantum blockchains from Copernicus University, they mostly did that. I was only helping with some elements of that work. But what I would like to say in this, that we tried to really attack this fundamental problem of FLP coupled dimension. And we believe that we are on the track. We got a review that was not that certain, but nobody was somehow like, invalidating our assumption, our math. There was perhaps not enough of the substance yet to be published in a, very well published articles. We are working on that. But what is the general idea? If somebody of you know a little bit of this new quantum theory, you've probably heard about GHZ. GHZ effect, Greenberg, Zeilinger, is a multipartite entanglement. Like you have more than 2 quantum objects that are entangled at the same time. And the long story short, if you apply this GHZ into CKA formulation, CKA is conference key agreement, so it's like not between 2 ends, but in the group of people, such a formulation is called cryptographic primitive or cryptographic framework by some Italian scientists, recently one of the most beautiful books on quantum key distribution. You can potentially create a mechanism which has a goal not to create a key that you share, but to really make a consensus out of it. And that's what we did in this article, and we will be continue working. That's a kind of a diagram on which we invented. What is the most important part of this article is actually that's Marta's invention. She is very good quantum optical physicist, not only pure information science. And if we have funding, if we have money, we'll be trying to realize that in the lab, because we have a conviction that if we create something which is called entanglement in time through the method which is called time beam entanglement, you can entangle things in space, but you can also entangle things in time, which is crazy, but it's possible. Some people say because of entanglement in time, you can go back into the past, okay? But that's, of course, far better. Yes, that's known phenomena. And now it is absolutely possible to create in the laboratory everything that you have in our article is physically possible to be built. Okay? We need to verify that and build in the lab. And actually, we have agreed with Professor Kolenderski of Toronto University that maybe under specific condition we'll be able to use the lab to build and verify that. So I hope that it will happen. So this article is specific because it's not only putting the theory how to do it, but potentially shows what is the setup in the physical space, how you can create something like that. Well, there is a lot of aspects which should go into this, which I have no time to cover right now. So let me only now go quickly to the blockchain, how we build it and how from this blockchain. First, I would like to say what our solutions to this problem are. So first solution for security of blockchain is QSB, quantum secure blockchain. And I will demonstrate in a few slides later, in a moment, how this quantum secure blockchain can be actually secured using QKD, quantum entropy, and post-quantum algorithms, post-quantum cryptography. And all these three elements can be used to secure the blockchain. Second, we have, by necessity, we invented something that potentially accelerate quantum cryptography. Why? Because we were a poor startup. We didn't have 200,000 euro to buy these devices. One maker of this India, they sent us these devices, so we had them advertised, but that was still extremely, crazy occasion. So we had to invent something, and we built something which I will show you that, by the way, can advance cryptography. We also have the entropy as service based on quantum random number generators, which you can use on our website. You can generate completely quantum passwords right now and use that for blockchains or any other field. And we have a lot of something we call internally R&D. So it's a knowledge graph for quantum cryptography. I will show you a few things about it. So now the core is quantum blockchain. So it has a very specific design, which looks crazy. First and foremost, I need to say that will be explained on the next slide a little bit more about it. So if you have QKD in the standard formulation, you can securely transfer keys from point A to point B, okay? You cannot pass that to other places because that's the nature of quantum information. So this limit of building networks is not classical, it's not cost only and fibers, but it's also physical. You have only point-to-point connections. So basically, if you have standard blockchain, which has P2P, peer-to-peer, right? And so everybody can speak to everybody. If you have n nodes, the number of edges, number of the systems that you can really connect grows with n squared, like n squared, right?
Because czasopis masał?
Sorry?
I co z nimi robisz?
I'm sorry. Okay. So basically, if you have n nodes, you have n times n minus 1 divided by 2 edges, as you know, connection with the graph. So for n nodes, the number of connections grow as a square. That is prohibitive from the cost perspective, from the infrastructure perspective. So we were working a long time to find topology that has a better scalability. And hook by crook, we found that. And where? In the early days of computing. When first supercomputing were built, they were called hypercube computers. By the way, Intel had something which is called Intel Hypercube. You can Google that and find that. Okay? Basically, this works on the topology, which scales in a different way. I will show you that. So we said that quantum secure blockchain can have these specific parts where the core of the blockchain is, for example, 4 nodes or 8 nodes, which is the hypercube of 2 or 3 dimensions, like 2 to square or 2 to 3, or 16 or 32, and so on and so forth. And the core should be always QKD, a true quantum key distribution, the very highest possible security, and they create like a core of this security, like a ultimate source of truth for this blockchain. Then you can use emulators. I will tell you what these emulators are in a moment. That's our invention on the outer part, because it's mantle, Earth. And then you can have a crust. Crust is simply like an outer layer where you have access to all the information of a blockchain, but you cannot do manipulation, you cannot post transactions. And finally, you also need, of course, number generators to create the absolutely unpredictable entropy. So these passwords and keys should be something that nobody can predict. That's a very important part. And we need post-quantum cryptography algorithms for one thing. And that's it. Quantum cryptography is only good today at least, for symmetric encryption. So you have a key, you can transport this key securely to the other end, But then you can use this key to protect standard communication using one-time pad, which is theoretically secure, or AES, or any other symmetric algorithm. That's what it is. Quantum cryptography doesn't come with asymmetric setting. We don't have asymmetric setting. We have some theories about that, some initial work on quantum signatures, but it's still not converted into any technology. So that's something that we need, these three elements.
No trzeba do dużego pokoju przenieść.
Nie,
Ja się tu nie mieszczę.
nie, żadnych śmieci mi nie będziesz przynosił do dużego pokoju.
Tak, ja się tu nie mieszczę.
Nie przynoś śmieci jakieś.
Nie przynoszę żadnych śmieci. Nie drzyj się.
You have a button.
Przecież to.
You can okay. So that was the first invention. Trying to build quantum secure blockchain, we had to invent networks that are having less connections than thing. And finally, also a very important part, we made this with the very foundational framework for blockchains called Substrate. This is one that runs Polkadot. I will tell you in a moment about that. But let me go to that. So that's our white paper. Our white paper was written in a specific way, not before the work, as many blockchain companies are doing, and then they raise money. We wrote that when we delivered the quantum. So when we finalized our test net, that it was running and being available, being on GitHub, we wrote the white paper to actually present a reality. Now, this equation in the bottom shows you how the number of edges grows with the size, dimensionality of the hypercube. So as you see, it grows much slower than square. So that's very good. And that enables potentially not only build up of blockchains on that way, but any quantum network where you can save money on quantum key distribution, assuming, of course, that you have notion of trusted nodes, which I don't want to go into this because that's a complicated story. But anyway, if you want to build a real quantum network, you need to adapt different topology. And I think that in our startup, we invented, well, we reinvented old supercomputing topology called. So that's how hypercubes of dimension from 1 to 5 look, of course, projected on the surface. As you know, we cannot even imagine 4-dimensional hypercube, right? Because we don't have mental capacity to that. So that's this is projection. It looks like this. It's quite crazy. That's of course still 3-dimensional. So that's what we can do. That's how 4-dimensional is being built. It's actually a very interesting mechanism for building that. And one of our scientists, Miriam, made a lot of beautiful research on that. Also, how to grow these systems. Like you have a initial hypercube of dimensions, say 3, and how you grow this system in a systematic way. There is a lot of interesting stories about that. Also, another thing that was very important, which I cannot cover because of time, is that on this network, you still need to show how you communicate this key across the network, because not every node is connected to every node, right? There is a path. And this path must be secured, must be done in a specific way. So we invented an algorithm that is presented here. So that's something that was another thing. Now, the beautiful thing about that whole work is that it's not visible, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This is Polkadot, one of the famous blockchains, Explorer. Okay, and Polkadot is like another Ethereum, very rich blockchain. And our blockchain literally works on that Explorer. So if I just click on that, I don't know if it will show or not. Yes, there was a problem we had. So that's, I hope it will work. Yes, so it's connecting. So we have a test net, a real thing, It runs on, sorry. That's why I initially wanted to have my own notebook here. To access that, you need some certificates or something. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I mean, doesn't matter, you know. But that's exactly what we would see. Everything is in public domain because in GitHub, as the blockchain project is not hidden in our systems. It's fully available on this. So the only this viewer requires connection across the firewalls. Now, if you now have that, that's fantastic. But what is the use of that? And that was the problem for our startup. And our startup today is poor in a very complicated situation. We don't have money. Why we don't have money? Because in September last year, as you know, blockchains collapsed and the FTX collapsed. Right? You know, this whole space was doomed as an untrusted space for investors because there was this guy, Fried Bankman, who is now in jail, right? And all these things happened, and actually they simply wiped out investors out of this space, literally. I don't say that this year there is another thing on which investors are jumping. It's AI, so that's another story. But coming out of blockchain space is a factor. And we actually also try to change the name and do millions of things because no, it's not a problem of hybrid, not hybrid quantum or not quantum. The problem is that if, for example, in April I am in Boston, and on the way to Boston, the quantum technology company, I stopped in New York, and I met with one of the largest investors, who is Polish, and he invests in New York financials. Hugely rich man. He's such a person that if he invests on Warsaw Stock Exchange, it's very dangerous for the stock exchange because he can rise it up or down in one transaction. So that's I don't want to say any names, so that's really not, but it's a really big guy. And he told me, Mirek, nobody trusts blockchain. Just get the name out of your company. Advice. So we started the process. I mean, that's very bad because blockchains are beautiful. I believe in that. But still this happened. So before that, we were formulating what kind of use cases is blockchain. So what they could do if they are so secure, right? I mean, assuming that the security is done, what is the use? So first, custody. Custody, if you may be heard, is the mechanism where you store your private keys. Okay, for existing blockchains, wallets where you store your documents. It's a fundamental system which is such secure that nobody can break into. And it is possible to create custody that are absolutely secure if you use quantum. Another proof. So that's one use case. The second use case is that one of the most important systems which must be absolutely secure on blockchain is a digital identity system. Like, for example, in Europe, maybe you heard already, there is a concept which is called EUID, and we will all have that automatically very soon. Poland joined that thing, and our ID will have that. They already have that, but they will be converted in the next couple of years into this global EUID, and everybody will be having that. It is really done with a fantastic way. That means that nobody will be able to trace us because good digital identity system based on SSI. SSI is called self-sovereign identity. So identity that you control. I mean, you are identified, but if you do not agree to find you on this ID, you can make a one click in the system and you are never found. Okay, and this never is again by cryptography, right? So these kind of the digital identity systems exist, and some of them are on the market, like Sovereign Network. They really exist and are real. So one of our use cases was that thing, and we worked on that until our money were available. So that's something that we can restart when we are founded. And another application where the huge security is needed is central bank digital currency. So if central banks will emit digital currencies and the path is set for that thing, of course, this blockchain story created a backlash in that. There will be a longer path. But ultimately, I am absolutely certain that it will go, because if you take this hype and these crooks and all these bad guys out of the picture, blockchain itself is fantastic for cryptocurrencies, for any kind of a currency to go digital. We have two products now out of this thing. One is called PQKD, post-quantum key distribution. I will spend time on the next slides about that. And multiple source quantum random number generator, which is both of them are important for our quantum randomness distribution services and quantum cryptography migration system. And so let me show you this. What you see on the right side here on this slide is a real thing. So this beautiful design is rendering only. That's, of course, the design of a product, and not yet in that form. But even having small money and not enough resources, we built something which properly could be called prototype. We actually not say prototype because it was validated. So it's not a prototype, it's working version, but it's pre-production model. Okay. So what it is a device, and actually let me. I want. So that's the real thing, okay? And this little box has a real quantum random number generator inside that we acquired from leader of the market in Switzerland, ID Quantic, and has processor. And some of you may recognize this box like a Raspberry Pi, right? It is. So it's not a Raspberry Pi, but the processor is the CM4 of Raspberry Pi, right? Exactly. Why? Because of cost. So we had absolutely wonderful partner in Warsaw, a company called Autonomy, and they built for us for such a low price that I am extremely happy, and they were happy. So it was absolutely fantastic work. And it emulates real QKD, which costs $200,000 US. How it is possible? First thing, standards. So what we discovered, so to speak, is that despite this state of development of quantum cryptography, one thing is fantastic. European Telecommunication Standard Institute has standardized QKD long time before they were built. And they created ETSI QKD standards. So every maker of QKD is making them compatible with this standard, obviously, right? Because the standard exists. And it happens that this standard is a classical standard of communication. So we have built literally this ETSI protocol inside our software by our engineers, and we put that on one of these interfaces. Okay. Second interface is simulation of quantum channel. And of course, in the real life, we can put them both on one connection of Ethernet, but the most secure setting is on the second channel. So one is a standard connection, and the second is the simulation of quantum channel. What is more, the simulation of quantum channel is protected by post-quantum algorithm called Kyber. So basically, the claim is that this little device is not as secured as QKD. Of course, because it doesn't have single photons. You know, I said that clearly before. But it's as secure as NIST recommended post-quantum algorithm. So this gives security which is required by NIST. And this diagram on the left shows how you create the communication with the theoretical security. So if you literally on down, we don't see that because of this overlap. But how? I don't know. Okay, anyway, let's not bother because that's okay. Maybe that way for. So if you have this device, between them, you need encryptors, a VPN system, some other systems that are known to create the ETSI protocol, as it is called, works between these guys. So the most beautiful thing that happened to our startup was that we started working with German company Adva. They are now acquired by some big American guys. And these devices worked for 3 months without any single failure on their encryptors in the huge data center of this company. Okay, so that was very good. We are now talking to another company in Poland, who is the distributor for Juniper, for Fortinet, and we hope also to speak to Thales very soon. Basically, we want to test that with some other makers. Just a second. Okay, I'm sorry, because maybe I was doing. I don't know what we did with all this time. But anyway, I was trying to be close on it. Sorry.
Dziękuję bardzo, bo jestem zależny od tego, czy pan mówi do mikrofonu, niestety.
Okay. Unfortunately, as we say, we forgot to put this big mic here, so that's the problem. So the second thing, which is also in the same setup, so the same box, 2RNG quantum entropy network source, it is built out of these little things which are ID quantic quantum random generators. They are very hard to get, but we were able to buy one, and that is very nice situation. And by the way, you can go to this 2RNG.io. Last certificate last night, so there is a little problem, but why it is recommended that you can go? Because you can go to application demo blog, and you can request that, for example, you want base, and then you can get random numbers, okay, of the given length. I think that 32. So that's a bigger and so forth. There is, I don't know why it's only 4, maybe because of the size of the screen. And they are really based on the real quantum random number tests I showed before, and they are available online. There is also important part that we partner with many companies. We can also solve the quantum from these QNU labs from India, real random, pure quantum from Chile, and on screen, and that works. Okay. Of course, that also can be mixed. This is why we say multiple source. And if you mix entropy, there is a lot of mathematical statement that you never make it worse, you make only it better. So that's very important part. So basically, the time spent on random number generators maybe perhaps sounds crazy, but you can't imagine how many problems in IT were because of poor randomness. You don't imagine that when NIST, American NIST, created one of the pseudo-random number generators, they had actually a backhole into that. So they could go into that and predict the numbers that are going out. So actually, to be really secure, you do not only need to transfer securely, but you also need to have that thing, which is called key, absolutely unpredictable. And the theoretical proof of QKD assumes that these keys have highest possible entropy. So this is extremely important. Okay, these, for example, this is ID Quantic original equipment that we had in the beginning. This is Secure Quantum from Chile, and this is Tropos from India, our partners. Okay. Now, the most important thing in our business plan right now, on which we are doing things with the, well, now mostly applying for grants, but basically that's something that is side grants also a big thing for our business plan, is that with this device, we can create the migration for quantum cryptography without high cost. So instead of buying a real QKD, people can buy our PQKD, which I am not having any secrets. I mean, this prototype costs 2,500 euros. Okay, so compared to 200,000 is nothing, and the production version is estimated to be 5,000 perhaps. Okay, when we build these production grade devices. So this is really nothing for administrators. They can buy it. They can then adjust the whole other network, like encryptors, VPN systems, TLS systems, and any system that require high security of keys. And only when everything is ready, they can buy QKD. And by the way, because QKD costs are lower in time, right? The more competition is on the market. We believe that if somebody started this journey now, when he will get ready to buy QKD, they will not be no longer 200,000. They will be 150. And by the way, one of our partners, a company from Israel, Quant LR, is already selling these devices for 100, so half the price. Okay? So that's something that is absolutely possible and realistic thing. We call it quantum cryptography migration system. And that's like an essence of what Krzysztof, you asked me for. I mean, see how blockchains can lead to development of something like that. So this is, of course, not for blockchain. This is for everything. I mean, you can go to any two data centers and connect them securely. So we have, of course, also deliver consulting services on that. We had some good track that we go to the clients, show where the real danger is, how to also, make the analysis of the real risk, so to speak, audits. And the very important part, we also are very familiar with all these regulations. So we can literally, in the consulting, so what regulations should be met at what time to be secure also formally, not only really. A part of this story, which I am very proud, is the quantum cryptography knowledge graph. Available on our website, you can go there. When you log in, you will get that free version, but it's a little bit limited. So then you notify us and you can get the full version, okay? So why this is important, this knowledge graph? First and foremost, it is a first known to us situation where we have collected all the terms related to quantum cryptography in one place. We put them in a hierarchy, which is called ontology. So this is fully semantic ontology or fully knowledge graph. And our scientists, Miriam and Marta, they wrote more than 100, something we called micro publications. So these are short articles like this on CHSH, inequality, which basically explains the basics of science. So this knowledge graph is a little bit more sophisticated than typical knowledge graphs because it is linked to the real quantum knowledge expressed in micro publications with references, right? So that's something that's some references where we found. We are talking about more about that. By the way, on Tuesday, I was invited to speak on a finance summit in Warsaw Stock Exchange on the panel, how to make Poland cybersecurity center. Okay, hopefully that I will what we are doing now, so today, despite these problems with funding, we have made these devices, okay? I mean, real things, as you saw. For blockchain, we use this substrate framework, which is qualified Polkadot, and we built QSB, and it is on the testnet, available for test. We have this entropy as service, which is the service on the API, which delivers randomness. By the way, we are now the final stage with a company called API Free, which is delivering randomness for blockchains generally, because blockchains need this quantum randomness already. And there are two companies, API Free and Chainlink, are doing that, and API Free outreach to us, and we have built all the infrastructure right now, so hopefully we'll be on their sites very soon. We also have this consulting services, and by the way, this work that I showed here is as the subject of two patents. And the first patent method and the device for secure encryption communication, this is about this. This patent is already fully qualified, so we just paid the final fee. Like, you go to the patent, they evaluate, it takes like 1 year almost, and they will, oh, it's okay, now you need to pay, okay? So you need to pay like 2,000 euro for European Patent Office to make these final steps and get you patent. 2,000. But the whole process with the patent attorney is much more expensive. I don't want to go into details because my patent attorney maybe listening or can listen that. I don't want to disclose his prices or make a havoc in the market, but this is expensive service. So we used some grant money to do that. And that's money well spent. I mean, when we were working with our patent attorney, despite he was not physicist, not mathematician, it's such a great work that I only can say, if you have a good patent attorney, they will also help you to formulate your invention. It's really fantastic. I can recommend later not using this actually. And the second is about the scientific work, Colombian Quantum Conference Key Agreement. With that, we have a little problem right now with the EPO. The problem is crazy. The problem is that the IPO found that one of the authors of the patent, which is this Marta Misiaszek, she wrote a PhD. She made PhD in Copernicus University. And they found that it cannot be patented because it is in the PhD. This was absolutely not right. There was nothing about this invention in the PhD, but nonetheless, they raised something, and now we need to respond. But anyway, if some of you know these procedures, we are covered right now. I mean, since you put your patent application and it's accepted, even if the patent is not yet allocated, you have a protection from the moment you submitted. Of course, if it will be denied, then the protection is revoked back in time, but you have protection right now. So that's very good and really fantastic, okay? So that's knowledge graph access. And that's our EP, European Patent Office Acknowledgement. That's one of the diagrams of the patent. That's, by the way, how we do that in the standard way. And finally, before I end, I'm good in time. Well,